Manx Radio's Countryside is brought to you by NFU Mutual.
Hello and welcome to Countryside here on Manx Radio. I'm Simon Clark.
And I'm Kirree. Recently I caught up with Sandy Hoyton from the Manx Hedgehog Conservation Society, and I also popped along to Harvest in the Barn.
And I find out from local contractor Philip Hampton how the weather and various other things have been affecting the fieldwork around the island. Well, we've had some good days and some bad days, but obviously work in the agricultural and horticultural side, the fishing, everything goes on the island as best it can, Kirree.
It has certainly. It's been very intermittent this autumn. The harvest has been a bit spread out, but I think these last few sunny days we've been having, people have got the last of the green crops in, some new grass seeds for next year, and the last of the corn lifted and the straw baled. But it has been a bit touch and go, though.
Yes, it has, and melias happening around the Isle of Man and all sorts of things at the church halls, which is remarkable to see that they're still keen for these to go ahead. And you were at an event?
I certainly was. It's an earlyish event, I suppose. We always enjoy a harvest home, and I popped along to Glenmay to see Harvest in the Barn. Well, Gordon Clegg, another lovely event down here at Ballacreggan in Glenmay. This is an annual, the Harvest in the Barn.
Yes, I think it started about 11 years ago. 11 years ago we started. The chapel was closing and they were looking for somewhere to do some work on the chapel, and they were looking for somewhere to hold an event for that year, and it's just took off and continued with it. And it's just so nice to put something back into the community. We don't support the chapel enough every week, but this is our way of putting back into it and allowing them to use the barn, and there's a good team of staff here that sort it all out and tidy it up.
And like you say, tidying up there, Gordon, that was no mean feat this year.
It's a good opportunity once a year to make use of the amenity centre and tidy the yard, isn't it?
It really is, it is. But tonight, the decor of all of the fresh fruit and vegetables and the Manx table.
We've tried to make a bit of a stance this year on mostly Manx because we're involved in agriculture. The Isle of Man tries to get self-sufficient. We try to support as much as we can. So yeah, Lexi Glen supports us with flour. We've got local eggs. We've got all local produce. We've got vouchers from the fat stock. We've got milk from the creameries and all homegrown produce.
And that's what the people are looking for through this pandemic. I think that has reiterated it the most. We need local produce.
Well, I think people have realised more and more that you do need local. We've always tried to support local where we can, and we'd like other people to support us back.
This is it. But you're not only involved with this, Gordon. Tonight we're standing here watching the people coming in, and the people are coming, scores of people come to enjoy themselves. But also the Cronkavody events and different other events around the Isle of Man. I know lately the big spud competition is always a favourite.
Yes, it is. Cronkavody itself has got quite a good committee up there, good staff. I think me at 57 years of age has managed to keep the average age on the committee down to about 81. But no, everybody mucks in, and it's a wonderful show every year. But it's not the committee that make the show. The committee, all they do, they provide the venue, they put the marquee up. It's the exhibitors that are coming to put the entries in. It's the support we get from the public that come, they make a show of it. And we have that auction at night, and everything at the end of the day. There's no entry fees, but everybody leaves their produce, and everything is sold for charity. And this year's charity was the Manx Blind Welfare. And I believe, I haven't got the figures to hand, but we're somewhere in the region of just over 2,500 this year raised between the auction and the raffle and donations that were put in. And it's a credit to everybody about. It's not a credit to the whole of the committee, it's a credit to the people.
This is it. And you see the classes that you put on for the younger ones. That's the generation we need to keep going and coming to these events. Tonight here at the Harvest in the Barn in Glenmay, it's full of children.
Yeah, it's nice to see them coming about, because if they're not here, they're your future. We've got to try and keep these events alive and keep it everything in the community. Support where we can, keep encouraging people. Just get as many young people in as you can, get them going on the job. That's what you want to do.
And tonight we've obviously talked about how wonderful the display of the fresh fruit and the produce is around there. But also in this barn there's something very special in the artwork. Now that is Manx through and through.
Well, it is, and I've got to thank, the only person you can thank for that is Brenda Kenyock. Over the years, some of the painting she had already done, but over the years in different events, she'd come down for 2 or 3 nights and we'd change all the paints and put something different. If there's a barn dance on, there'll be dancers on the wall, cowboys on the wall, there'll be horses on the wall. It just changes every time you go on, and it's wonderful.
But like you say, these aren't just small picture box paintings. These are big sheets of plyboard covered with Manx scenes. They're no. I'm going to put a couple on our Facebook page, on the Manx Radio's Facebook page, for people to have a look at.
They're 8 foot by 12 foot, and when she comes down, she just goes freehand, and they're done. And believe it or not, I can see a shadow in the mirror behind us, and we might even get a quick word on it.
Well, we're lucky, Gordon. Tonight in the background here we can hear the lovely silver band playing. That is always a fantastic tradition.
Yeah, Crosby Silver Band comes to every event here, the Harvest in the Barn, the Christmas in the Barn, and they make it. A band makes the music. Yes, it's nice, pianos are nice, organs are nice, but you can't beat a band no matter where you go. It's just nice to have them, and we appreciate of them.
And the service tonight, are you leading it?
Oh, no, not that far up yet.
And alongside tonight, Gordon, we'll have the service as well.
Yeah, we've got a local minister, Sandy Fishburne, but we're also on tonight with a guest speaker, guest minister, Mr. Hall. So yeah, looking forward to it. He's doing the sermon tonight, and I hope it's a good night. And
the one thing I did notice is the ladies bringing trays of cakes.
You can't beat a good cake and a sandwich and a cup of tea after.
You certainly can't beat a good cake, no.
No, we like them. I don't mind making them either. I don't mind meeting them. I've got quite a few of my own bonnets in there tonight. They've been thrown in the oven this afternoon between brushing the yard.
Well, that said, Gordon, you've mentioned the bonnets there. Back in March, we were out there in Dorby. It was probably one of the last Manx events that was held before lockdown. And this here now...
And I missed it.
And this here now would be such a lovely opportunity, a great position the Isle of Man is in to hold this harvest home.
We're very lucky we are able to do it. When you look at the adjacent isle, they're so unfortunate the way things are going, and it's just great to be able to be here and congregate together with so many people and just enjoy the night.
That was Gordon Clegg there, the organiser from Glenmay of Harvest in the Barn.
And it's a unique set in Kirree, isn't it?
Absolutely beautiful. That shed was done out incredibly well, and absolute credit to the Clegg family there. They do so much for the community, and Gordon in particular, for lots of other farming people around the area in the west coast there too.
No candles.
Not quite.
No. But yeah, it is really, and there's something. It's like having like the Christmas services in somebody's house, isn't it? You know, I know Paul Costain often has them down his place and things like that, and there's just something that makes it right about it.
There's always something about an old farmyard at Christmas, isn't there? And like that there with Gordon, he does have a Christmas in the barn too, and people just want to get out and enjoy in the countryside and in that old feeling of maybe yesteryear, maybe, I don't know what it is, but he had, in particular for the harvest in the barn, all decked out with hydrangeas and all the greenery for this time of year. But the display of veg, the fruit and veg, was just phenomenal, and we'll have some pictures on our Facebook of Manx Radio to show the listeners that.
Well, as we mentioned at the start of the programme, it's been a difficult year for various reasons. Some we know, some we're about to find out, I suppose. But I went along to find out how things had been in the contracting world, combining and ploughing and silaging, from local contractor Philip Hampton. And firstly, I put it to him that had the weather, of all things, been affecting much?
Yes, Simon. We've had probably one of the wettest winters that we've seen. We had the wettest February on record, and then we went into March with the start of the coronavirus, and the weather dried up, and we had a good spell for about 10 weeks, and then we've had some of the wettest 2 or 3 months that the year could throw at us, so it's not been ideal.
Is that wet at the time where you don't want it to be wet from a contractor or farmer's point of view, is it?
Yes, well, the dry spell hurt a lot of crops in their establishment and made the first cropping of grass on light crops. And then when the rain came, everything exploded and grass grew like anything, but it was too wet to harvest it at the ideal time for the quality.
Yeah, and that people don't realise that, do they? Think grass just grows and grows and grows, and then you can cut it when you like, but a lot of the time the goodness is gone, isn't it?
Yeah, the modern farmers, especially now, are after as much quality out of the grass as they can, so they don't even want to be a week late when they're harvesting it, So it does make a big difference to how much extra feed they have to do to alter the quality.
Yeah, because I remember I used to talk to John Cayley from Lecarrow when he was doing the silage and stuff, and he'd have a diary of every year and be checking on the weather, and it's such a crucial time for to get it right for him.
Oh yes, it's a very serious business, especially for the dairy farmer. It makes a big difference on how much cake or cow feed they have to put with the silage to get the most milk out of the cow.
Because it's like people think, oh, they're just going to get fed a bit of hay and a bit of grass and stuff. But it's like nutrition's in humans, isn't it? You know, to get it right, you're getting the best out of the cows for the milk yields.
Oh yes, there's people whose sole job is to make up diets for cows.
Wow. What about sort of contracting you do, and you talked about the silage there, but a lot of other things that you have to get involved with?
Yeah, we've had a lot of like establishing cereal crops and things like that. This year was quite a challenge with the coronavirus, because there wasn't as many. You couldn't have as much staff around, because normally you might have a couple of people sharing a tractor, you know, doing half a day, or someone coming in to do a few hours at night, whereas now this year it was a lot harder, and we were disinfecting tractors in between.
That'd be a first for farmers.
On some of them, yeah, they were all pretty clean, and you were wiping them down with antibacterial wipes. And even when you were turning up to a farm, you'd have to put gloves on to open the gates, because especially with everyone taking their hour's exercise in a day, there could be 30 people an hour climbing over a stile or over a gate, so you're always a bit conscientious of how many people were around. I mean, it was quite nice to see the amount of people that were around and out walking and enjoying the place. And I think people did take a lot more interest than they normally would when they were watching what was happening in the countryside.
So it did have a big effect on I suppose the timescale, because when you're contracting, you need to get it done as quick as you can, get to somebody else.
Yes, we were very lucky that the weather was so good at the time, so you could afford to take a bit longer. And this year, my nephew helped me because we were a bit short-staffed, because they shut down at the college, and he come back and he started doing a lot of work with me, and that helped. But yes, it was a bit of a. And to be fair, when you were going on farms, a lot of people are worried, because if you're a sole trader, and if you come down with it, even the best laid plans, no one knows their farm like they do themselves.
That would be a worry from your point of view, wouldn't it? You know, you're self-employed. You know, nobody can drive your machinery, and yet you can't do if you had to do nothing for 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think there would have been. We probably would have got through, but yes, it was a bit of a worrying time for everyone, wasn't it? You know, it was the unknown. We didn't. Now I think we're a little bit more open to the idea. We know a bit more about it, but at the time, no one knew, and everyone was a bit scared.
Yeah, they were. Now, got the machinery in front of us now. You're not finished for the year, I would imagine, by any means.
No, we've got a couple of grass silage jobs to do, and then I'm just getting this maize header that's in front of us here. It
looks like a sort of medieval torture device. Looking at this, it looks quite scary, the front of this.
Yes, you do get a few looks when you're going down the road in between fields with it. But yes, so we'll put this on, and this goes on the front of the forage harvester, and it chops maize, proper what people would call corn silage, and put that in the pit and make that to feed to the cows, really.
Yeah, so there's a bit of that to do, and then is that it then for the winter? We can relax.
There's a few winter crops that we're starting to sow, maybe winter oats and a few things around about now. But yes, once we get another month out of the way, hopefully we can start to wind down a bit then.
Yeah. get everything ready for next year.
Yes, it's not long by the time you've serviced a few things up and done a little bit of hedge trimming and things like that and got ready for Christmas. It's not long before it's starting again, and it's nice to see the family and the children for a little while.
Yeah. Is it one thing has it grown in popularity, farmers getting contractors in? Because years ago they all used to have a little baler or a plough and a small combine that somebody had. I mean, they're so expensive now. Is it work in the contractor favour in a way?
Yeah, yes. I mean, the expenses of it is one thing, but also the shortage of labour. If we go in to do a silage job, I might mow it, or maybe the farmer might mow himself. A friend of mine, Jamie Corkish, he might do another contractor, he might do the raking for me, someone else might do the silage pit, and we all sort of share it round and work together because the labour isn't around that there used to be to help out and do all the jobs yourself.
Yeah, so you'd sort of get everyone together to do this farm, you'd all go together and do the other farm, and it all sort of work together, which is nice.
Yeah, that tends to be the way, but it was the only trouble this year with the coronavirus. Normally, you'd be in the farmhouse for a big cooked-up dinner and things like that, and a bit of banter around the dinner table. And especially in first cut up until end of June and all, really, that hadn't been happening. We were stuck with sandwiches in the tractor cab on a lonesome.
You'll have lost stones of weight then, have you?
I don't know about that.
Local contractor Philip Hampton telling us all about how the year had been so far, the start of it, and up to date as well. And again, just trying to get it done, while they can. And they've had a bit of luck with the weather, of all things, to a few warm days together and dry days, which they can get some done.
That's it. The early part, like he said there, was awful dry and the crops were a bit of a struggle to get going. But this second part of the year, for livestock farming in particular, the sheep and cattle have definitely enjoyed a lot fuller fields of grass anyway, and it's been a nice autumn. Yeah,
and interesting, where people outside of farming would think, grow as much if you can, grow as much, But, of course, in this case, it is quality rather than quantity, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And that's it. Today we were chatting with other farmers that have got plenty of silage made and they're looking to sell it. And they think the first cuts weren't maybe so great. The middle ones were really good and the last ones, they could be a bit touchy as well. But it makes all the difference. You think just grass is grass, but it certainly isn't.
No, it's not. You're listening to Countryside here on Max Radio with Kirree Kermode and myself, Simon Clark. Well, I suppose it's getting, sad to say it, but it's getting darker in the evenings, and autumn will be upon us soon, and it's a time where some of the animals will be going into hibernation, won't it?
That's right, and I think a few Manx people do too in the winter months here on the island. But no, that's right. The hedgehog are a very popular little friend around the countryside, and it's sad to hear in the UK that the numbers are diminishing by the year. It's really, really in a dire state. I caught up with Sandy Hoyton from the Manx Hedgehog Conservation Society to see how our numbers were doing here on the island.
Sandy, you've brought me to a very beautiful place here. This is apparently where it all began with you.
This is East Baldwin Conservation Woods. This is a very special place for me personally because I walk this regularly, but this is where it all started for the charity, really, when I found Mr. Nosy and Mr. Dozy, which were actually not named at that time, but they were introduced to children within a week of me caring for them, and that's what some children called them. And those are the originals that everyone remembers, Nosy and Dozy.
And that, you say, is 10 years ago. Yeah. My goodness, a long time.
It is a long time, but that was it. That's where I got hooked in and got really passionate about how vulnerable they are, because that was actually October. And they were very tiny, and that also indicated that there had been a female in this area that had obviously given birth and maybe had second litter, because they're all ruled by temperature. They don't have a little calendar in their nest telling them what month it is to hibernate and wake up, so they're ruled by temperature. So if it's a bit of a warmer late summer, they'll go back into breeding. But those particular hedgehogs were on death's door when I found them. I was supposed to, they found me. I think they found me.
And that, like you say, exactly, have a lot to answer for. 5 years ago, you set up the Manx Hedgehog charity.
Yeah. I found myself getting busier and busier with the work of caring for the hedgehogs, and people started to find out about the work I was doing. And it got to the point where I thought, I was actually quite staggered that there wasn't anything to do with the hedgehog charity on the Isle of Man, because everybody loves them.
Oh, they do.
Everybody wants a hedgehog in the garden, and everybody should have a hedgehog in the garden, because you would never ever have to consider ever putting pesticide kill down. I'm really passionate about getting rid of all pesticide kill. And Mother's Nature's way was hedgehogs. That's what we all really need, but because more people, we've got less hedgehogs, I'm afraid.
And that is what we're here to talk about, is the fact that in the British news in the UK, hedgehogs are now becoming endangered species. How are they faring on the island, though?
Well, when I went around a lot on my educational talks, which we do many a year, not quite so much at the moment with COVID, obviously, and there were people talking to me about, we don't see the hedgehogs in Peel anymore. And then I found people saying, in Port Erin, we're really not seeing as many hedgehogs anymore. And I thought, well, this is, there's a reason for this. And obviously, those were habitat disturbance areas because of new builds. So when we've got more obviously estates, they are large areas of building, then we've got gardens that aren't accommodating exit areas, entrance areas. They get in, they can't get out. And they can't get in at all,
And that's it. Some of these new builds, like you say, are very fenced, aren't they? And maybe the use of, I see that astro grass is seemingly the new thing because it's easy to look after. It's very different habitats from when you and I maybe were growing up in our households.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I was brought up on a farm in the country. So, yes, it is all changing and it's changing quickly. And people just need to start embracing more wildlife living around them, even in their garden. Just because you're living on an estate doesn't mean you don't have wildlife coming to your garden. Of course you do. So if you just think, hedgehog friendly for us, hedgehog friendly, a little gap somewhere to allow a hedgehog, even just a 3-inch gap just at the end of the garden somewhere, so that you're not allowing everything coming through like your next door neighbour's dog or something, but just so that they just can squash down a little bit and get through things, and just if you've got a pond, consider putting a ramp.
Yeah, I see that around by us. There's a few cattle grids, and they have made little ramps into it and put signs on their gates to say, keep an eye on the ramp, checking the cattle grid in case somebody's fallen in, just to people that are passing by.
Yeah.
And I think that's really lovely. They're embracing the whole idea of nature. And I think with the COVID and the lockdown we've had this year, Sandy, we've seen some absolutely wonderful nature things, haven't we?
We have seen nature retrieve itself, basically. I'm a great walker and I spend a lot of time in various parts of the Isle of Man, and the sound of the birds seemed to be more intense. Then you think, well, maybe it's because there was less cars, but for us there was certainly less roadkill for sure. My job brings me home sometimes quite late at night, and I was actually witnessing hedgehogs toddling across the road and getting to the other side and making it in the same place. Now there's roadkill. So, it just goes to show that, a lot of the reasons why hedgehog population, particularly in the UK, is decreasing is all to do with where we're going wrong as humans. And we need to reconnect, re-embrace wildlife and think, educate, bring more awareness. And the aims of this charity are exactly that, to protect this species, the humble hedgehog. And to bring that education and awareness forward so that people understand them better, understand their needs better, looking out for the dangers, lots of different dangers, and they're out there. And we get so many phone calls asking for advice from why is the hedgehogs eating my frogs. That was one I got.
Oh, good golly.
And I thought, well, I'm here to answer a lot of questions, but I've not had that one before.
Even for you, Sandy, that's so passionate about it. It's a learning curve every day, something new. And that's something that you're so passionate about. And with it has come the award that your charity has won this last couple of years.
Yes, it was a really nice surprise because we weren't told about this. We were told to get ourselves to the lecture room at the museum because it was the UNESCO Biosphere presentation, and we were very lucky because we were in the highest category. There was over 20 in it, and when they announced our name I was really shocked, but then everyone said, you so deserve it. I mean, I had so many lovely emails and messages from that, and you know, we're all volunteers. It's an unpaid position, and you've got to be passionate from your heart to keep slogging at it. And that's what we do. I manage the charity, obviously. I founded this charity, but there's lots of great people out there that are working with us, foster carers, even down to people running in and putting newspapers in my porch because we need them for hedgehogs. Honestly, it just comes in so many ways. Tim Bath Race for helping with donations, and just so many different ways. I can never tell you from one day to the next what's going to happen, but there's a great community support and a great love of the Manx hedgehog, and I hope and I believe that to continue with our work in the manner that we do, we certainly will not have hedgehogs endangered in the Isle of Man.
And that is a really, really great thing to hear. And like you say, you go on talks around the Isle of Man, and I guess teaching the younger generations is vital.
It's totally. They're little sponges, aren't they? Yeah. And children just want to get stuck out there and get dirty and get into the ground and find out slugs, snails. Yes, we've done loads of workshops actually to help educate the children. The Cabinet Office actually asked us to do an environmental workshop, which was at the Ardblen and St John's Gardens. That was a couple of years ago. We did 3 days in a marquee. It absolutely chucked it down on the third day, but there were certainly some slugs and snails hanging around outside, so we grabbed a few of them and brought them in. But we taught the children how to protect the species, why they're here and for what purpose they're here, the food chain process. We do wiggly worm workshops, so we got close to worms. We showed them the importance of the worms to planet Earth. We talk about the bees, but I'm really passionate about the earthworms. Then we covered the New Zealand flatworm that eats the earthworm, and that's not good. So children learnt about that, and it was really educational. And
I do think, Sandy, you say this is aimed at children. Why not some of the adults? Because I know that some people may have never had the opportunity to explore like we have as country people growing up. Yeah. You know, they could maybe come out of bigger cities and move to this beautiful island. Mm-hmm. But why not offer it out to everyone? You're never too old, are you?
You're never too old. The child's within us all, no matter how old we are. Yeah. I really hope to hold a workshop for adults, because it's the adults that phone us on the hedgehog helpline, and it can be anything to it's night time, there's a hedgehog on the road, do I leave it, do I not leave it, or there's a hedgehog that's wobbling, or there's a hedgehog that's injured, and we just don't know what to do. What do we do? So that's where we take the calls as best we can, and I think it would be really good to get adults together in a couple of workshops and fire out this advice to them. And a lot of people like doing the craft side of it as well. We've got quite a few ideas for craft as well, and some of the ladies say, you know, could you do a little art workshop, you know, something to do with making some design of hedgehog. I collect a lot of sea glass, and I thought we could probably do something nice with that. So yeah, there's loads of things. We have to, and have been obviously very careful with having to sort of all protect ourselves on the Isle of Man right now, haven't we, with COVID? But you know, hopefully we can remain safe as we have been, and work towards maybe a workshop in the autumn, because that would be really good to cover hibernation.
Yeah,
and hibernation comes with its dangers, actually. So I think if we can do an educational workshop and maybe a bit of fun and craft and have some cake and tea,
that's always a good pull.
And raise some funds, you know. I think that's something that we need to work on for a bit later in the year.
Yeah. But it's always nice, like you say, to get involved with everybody. You know, the community in the Isle of Man is held together, like you've seen firsthand through the COVID pandemic. But now, you know, getting out in the Isle of Man, it is a magical place.
The Isle of Man is the gem of God's earth, isn't it? I mean, you know, you just drive from one end to the other and everything's beautiful. And, you know, some people have found it very frustrating not being able to get off the island because of COVID. And I am not the least bit bothered. I just think it's a holiday every day.
Yeah.
There's always something new every day. And you know, I've got to meet a lot of people in my line of work, being an environmentalist, conservationist, and, you know, you just can't go anywhere without somebody talking to me about hedgehogs. I mean, it's just like, it doesn't matter where I go. I try and avoid Strand Street.
But that is the Isle of Man, isn't it? It really is.
And I'm always known for being late.
But like you say, people want to get on and do. What can they do just in their own little space at home, Sandy, just to help their Isle of Man hedgehogs not get endangered like the UK?
Okay, well, firstly, number one, hedgehogs are out and about. It's a breeding season now, even though we think it's coming to the end, it's not. Drive with due care and attention. There could be a hedgehog about. If you think there's something crossing the road, just slow down. Consider removing all pesticide poisons from your garden shed. They're of no good. There's so many other alternatives. If you don't know, get in contact with us. We'll certainly put you in the right direction. Consider when you're gardening, streamers. So many dangers within the garden. Get a ramp coming out your pond so they don't drown, because when they wake up from hibernation, they've lost 40% of their weight. They're dehydrated and they are desperate for water. So we do then say to people, come, you know, February, March, start getting the water bowls back out again, because they could just be passing through, and that bowl of water could be a lifesaver, and for birds, for our wild birds too. That there are various different things that you can do to support the hedgehog, and just enjoy the hedgehog when you've got it in your garden. We have lots of people saying, oh, the kids built a little house and we can't believe it's gone in, and the support is just amazing.
Yeah, this is it. And can people find it online? Are you reachable? How do they get in touch with you, Sandy?
Yeah, okay, well, we're very busy on the Facebook, which is Manx Hedgehog Conservation Society. Come on and like us, then you can follow us then. We've got an email address, which is manxhedgehogs@gmail.com. Phone line 413 921. There's various different ways you can get hold of us. And I just really thank everybody, actually. Everyone's been absolutely amazing, but there's still more work to be done.
That was Sandy Hoyton from the Manx Hedgehog Conservation Society.
And we're so lucky, Kirree, to have passionate people like Sandy, the Bat Club on the island, Manx Bat Group, the ornithology side of it. You know, we've all got great people behind it. The Whale and Dolphin Watch, haven't we?
Absolutely fantastic. They do a great job, and a lot of them, Simon, volunteers too, and they're always looking for more volunteers. So if you've got a little bit of spare time, do look out for these wildlife conservation societies. There's plenty of them to get involved with.
What, miss the PS4 or Coronation Street? So you're asking a lot of people, aren't you? All right, that's it. If you want to listen to the programme again, or if you missed any of it, it's available on Manx Radio's website. On the podcast say, you'll hear all the interviews in full. And if you've got anything for the programme, let Kirree or myself know. Leave a message at the station. We'll get back to you, or send an email to countryside@manxradio.com. Until next Tuesday at 6, from me, Simon Clark.
And me, Kirree Kermode.
We'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.